Hot button.
What's the weirdest place you could turn into a rock venue?
Oh man, you went to an aquarium today.
Yeah,
That would be
I was
cool.
thinking about that. What about a dumpster? No,
Like a prison camp.
an old
Wait, Johnny Cash did that.
at a grocery
right?
store.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that. So I was just thinking about that.
My basement.
Yeah, that could work. Wait, did you say Johnny Cash?
He played in a prison,
Oh,
I think. Yeah, that was like a famous.
Yeah, it was pretty famous.
He played in my basement. And we are back with our follow-up of the full story of hit shooter Halo Combat Evolved, where we
well,
last
hit's
left.
a stretch.
I'll kill you.
Where we last left off, developer Bungie had all the pieces laid out for their world-changing game, but they still weren't yet put together to form the sci-fi title that we all know and love today. This is Hot Button. We are Randall Beatrice, Chris Anantuano, and
You.
Austin Blakesley.
Yeah.
Austin, why don't you enlighten us all today on what
first of
happened
all,
next?
In Hot Button Halo Episode 1, you can only wield one hot button, but now, here we
multiple
are.
hot buttons.
Hot Button Episode 2. There's one hot button in each hand.
So in the timeline of Blam/Halo/Monkey Nuts, what
Slash armor. Don't forget
slash
that one.
armor? Shit. Yeah, there's a lot of code names.
Yes. All right. So when we last left off, the game had finally been revealed to the public. The name had finally been revealed as Halo. Instead of Codename Blam.
That's exactly that.
The music was out there. The art was out there. Everybody was super hype. All the Mac fans were just waiting to get that
By
game
the way,
on their
it
Mac.
feels so weird saying the full title of Halo Combat Evolved because in still doing this, I almost forgot that was.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
No, it's called Halo Xbox One.
Oh, no. Don't dig that back up.
XXX.
They showed off the demo. Everybody was impressed. But again, the demo was everything they had, and it was not yet a game.
Details.
So Bungie was starting to get into turning this sandbox that they had created finally into a structured game that people could play. And they decided, fuck it, let's go as ambitious as possible
Why
with
not?
this.
Shoot for the stars.
So the plan was to create an open world, open sandbox game with a story that had actions that would affect later
Jeez.
actions and choices that would branch off into
Slow
separate
it down
choices.
there, guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
The world would be open and filled with animals and weird plant life and fauna that you could ride like horses. It would have
This
red
plant sucks your dick.
This is getting a little Peter Molyneux.
it would have red faction style terrain deformation.
Fuck yeah! Shout out to Red Faction.
Dynamic weather. The game would have co-op, and players could have different roles.
Co-op. Don't be crazy.
And all this will
drivers,
be in a
gunners.
package offered by Activision for $50 more.
Man, can you imagine if Halo was all of these things?
The one thing that was really in place from what we now know as Halo Combat Evolved was the story.
Yeah.
Like I said, they already had the whole ring world thing. They already had Crash landing there being chased by this alien covenant.
I didn't know co-op was also this early on, like a thing they
Well,
wanted to
it
do.
wasn't. Because
Okay.
this idea of co-op is a lot different from what Halo 1's actual co-op,
Co-op
was
became.
like.
Okay.
And I think it was cut and added back in a couple times. But we'll get there. The story was not fleshed out, but it had the basics. It had the crashing on the ring world, the covenant. It had exploring the depths of the ring to find out its mysteries. But things like, I believe things like the flood were in the
there's
game.
probably
Yeah.
tons of plot holes.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just fly an eagle to the ring and destroy it in the volcano? You know what I mean?
Yeah. That classic Halo scene with the Eagles.
The band?
No, the
God.
football team.
Fucking hate the Eagles, man.
But yeah, this actually followed Bungie's steps for development. Their steps for development
Their
were
business outline's just a big question mark. Like, I don't know.
engine first, then multiplayer, and finally single player. Because keep in mind, we're in the days of like Quake.
Yeah.
So it's like this thing's got to be multiplayer first.
Hold on, sorry.
Especially
in
for
that,
a PC launch at that time,
in
you know what I mean?
the split screen co-op, the second player in the first game is just a Marine, right?
No, they're just another Master Chief.
They're another
Yeah,
Master
they're
Chief?
literally another
Okay, I
Master
thought
And there
they
is
were
a
even Marine.
There is a narrative reason. You're not actually Master Chief. You're another Spartan.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I mean, there are other Spartans.
In the extended Halo universe of books that I totally read when I was in
say,
middle school.
I read
This is one of those series
yeah.
that have the books attached.
There's quite a few of those.
In that book, Master Chief is not the only Spartan on the Pillar of Autumn.
Yeah.
He's just the only one that wakes up.
They do dive into that more in Reach.
In the lore, that makes sense. Which, by the way, we gave credit to Bungie for like the sandbox thing in the first episode. Go back and listen. But I absolutely love their lore. Like, I hate to keep bringing up Destiny, but that's because it's like,
you have such a love-hate relationship with that game.
To me, Destiny is a bigger game from Bungie than Halo ever was. I know that's like a fucking crazy thing to say.
You watch your time.
I know. I'm sorry. I played Halo 3 and Destiny 1 probably equal time.
Yeah.
We're talking months and months and months and months of my life. But Destiny's obviously more recent in my adult life than Halo. Was like 2007. I was practically I was a teenager.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's at different points in my life. The point I'm saying is like, their lore, as disjointed as Destiny 1 was, that game, deep dive, there's I hate promoting other podcasts, but there's another podcast that is incredible deep dive into Destiny lore where they compile and put it all together into a narrative like front.
Yes,
and
I listened to that before.
Yeah.
I listened to that before Destiny 2
I'm
came
gonna
out.
nerd alert both you guys.
The story behind those are incredible. Like they've always been great at writing. Like this is a sci-fi epic.
They like building universes for sure.
Yeah,
it's a very Star Wars
absolutely.
approach to it. But the only problem I had with like Destiny was how they delivered that. It
delivered.
was very obtuse. And
It was
sort of
horribly delivered.
Yeah.
But as we're
But if you
learning
dug
as
it, it was
games are developed in the future, if you're creating a massive open world MMO/RPG, the story just gets tossed in the fucking trash. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it's not easy to deliver. Like the amount of how big they wanted the world of Halo to be, and to deliver that in the format that they did.
you said, imagine if Halo was all that. It wouldn't have been Halo. It wouldn't have been as good.
You're right. No, I like that Halo is a more directed experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which was not added until way later.
Which I found out was not the original intention. Yeah.
So we're nearing the end of 1999. Bungie was inviting journalists into the office to show off various features of the game, but again, it was just still a sandbox. But even so,
And a third-person sandbox.
Yeah, letting people get their hands on this demo was just leading to more positive impressions.
And they were able to play?
More buzz, more hype. Yeah. And so that will lead us into the beginning of 2000, which is the year that Oni was released.
Meanwhile, this other game.
Which Oni, kind of a forgotten game, obviously, compared to Halo Combat
Like
Evolved.
I said, it was fine.
Yeah.
But
Reminded me of Jet Force Gemini.
What was Oni released on? Was it just computer?
PS2.
PS2.
I thought it was
Yeah,
PlayStation.
I think
yeah,
PC.
exactly.
Oh, was it PC as well?
PlayStation and PC,
Okay.
yeah.
but like the progress that they were making on Oni actually did help them lead to the decision to turn Halo into this third-person action game. So it did contribute something positive to the world other than being forgotten. Sorry, Oni. It was all right. But they were in full-on promotion mode for Oni. They were going to things like GDC and stuff like that and bringing demos for Oni.
And naturally, everybody was.
But nobody nobody gave two shits about Oni. Every time any journalist asked them questions, Halo would inevitably come up to the point where they just started bringing this demo of Halo everywhere with them so they could show it to people.
I think the same thing happened with GTA 4 and Rockstar was going around with Rockstar Stable Tennis or whatever.
Probably. Yeah.
Give us the wet demo. We don't want... When they were like with Skyrim.
But they had in development builds of Halo. They started bringing them with them, and people started recording like off-screen footage of it and posting it online. This is where the first recorded public...
With what? A camera that
Probably
had
a
tape
camcorder,
that they converted to digital?
But this was the first recorded public viewing of the Grunt.
Excuse me, that's the
birthday
lol or blah blah, or whatever they're
Hold
called.
Let me check it. The Ungoy.
Yeah.
So we're in 2000 now, and another crossover with episode 6 of Hot Button, our history of the original Xbox. In March 2000, at GDC, Microsoft finally announced the Xbox to the public. Now,
Check it out. It's a big box, big X right on the top of it. You're going to love it.
That's all you need to know.
I think you made that same joke in the first episode. Yeah, and Bungie was still, obviously, they were at GDC, they were promoting Oni, they were getting asked about Halo, and one of the questions that they were now being asked a lot about Halo was,
Where was it
you've
gonna
talked in the past about porting this to consoles. Is there any interest in porting this to Microsoft's new console? And they said, maybe. But
Does
here's
it run
the
on
thing.
Mac?
I'm surprised they didn't go for Dreamcast because that ran on.
They did.
Oh, okay. Damn.
They were planning to port this thing to Dreamcast, PlayStation 2. I don't believe the GameCube because it's a trash console for idiots.
Fucking.
And then
If you two high five,
the funny thing about that is that Bungie already knew about the existence of the Xbox because in January of 2000 they had met with Microsoft.
Oh yeah.
Microsoft had officially asked about them porting the game.
Right.
Like
Well,
PlayStation
they were
was just
behind
like
closed doors trying to get
and
this
they were
fucking
pretty,
launch
they were pretty
titles to
active
begin
going
with.
around trying to get that.
PlayStation
stuff,
was just like, whatever, man, just port it if you want. We don't care. We got so many
yeah,
games.
a new game comes out every day. On this
Microsoft
console.
was like, please, your game looks so cool. We need some games, please.
Could you imagine if Halo was released on the Dreamcast?
Yeah. And again, they had met with Take-Two and Microsoft because Take-Two, if they were going to port this, Rockstar would have been publishing
Hell yeah.
Halo.
That would have been wild.
Yeah.
Grand Theft Halo.
But yeah, so then they're like, all right, we really got to show off all our progress on Halo to the public officially, huh? So then, flash forward a couple months, E3 2000. The Dreamcast had been released, and everybody was just eating it up. It was
Yeah.
doing so well.
More on
And
the
us-
Dreamcast
and
story
Very
coming soon.
successful.
As we all know.
We'll get to that in a future episode. Stay tuned. But the PlayStation 2 had been released in Japan, was not yet released in America.
Right, yeah.
But the release date and price were announced for America. The GameCube was officially revealed.
You can set this thing up vertically or horizontally. It's crazy. Buy one.
And Microsoft was obviously out there promoting the Xbox, but also this was the first demo of Halo, or I guess the second demo of Halo. But this was
This is when it was a game.
yeah.
More.
It was not quite a game yet, but this was a much larger demo, and this was a lot closer to what Halo would end up becoming.
Okay.
Bungie brought with them a 9-minute demo, and they got a little theater, and they took in 20 people at a time, and then Jason
Turned down
Jones
the lights, held hands.
would intro the game, talk about it for a couple minutes, and then they would show this 9-minute demo. This included a ton of new stuff. This included human aircraft you could fly. This included way more Covenant vehicles. This was when the sniper rifle was added. They showed the Master Chief killing an elite with an energy sword, which we now know did not
Didn't make
actually.
it in.
The enemies could use energy swords, but
They
you
could.
couldn't pick them up in Halo 1.
Could you imagine? Like, I want to know what this game looked like, third person, like played through.
I don't know.
Like,
yeah.
so-
Oni is third person. Maybe it'll look like
we'll
that. I
get,
don't know.
we'll get to that in a little bit.
Stubbs the zombie.
This
That's the
also-
Halo engine in third
This
person.
also, but
Yeah.
this demo is very important because
I love
this
that
is
game.
where Master Chief was added.
Right.
not to
Okay.
be confused
But
with Master Chef.
This is
Oh my
before
God,
he
if I hear
didn't.
that
This
joke
was
one more
before
time.
he didn't have that like sexy ass radio voice, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that'll come later because that guy is a
fucking
radio
best.
is a radio
He's a
host
DJ, right?
in Seattle.
Yeah.
But Bungie
No
was still in
shit.
Chicago at the time. So they didn't have a voice actor picked out. It was no longer like you're a group of elite cyborgs. It was like you're this one dude
Yeah.
in this cool robot armor, and he's got like a personality. And they added this robot, but it was just like some developer in the Bungie offices with a robot filter put
Some
over his
measly
voice.
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
voice.
Instead of that, like
Yeah.
instead of that, like booming
Yo,
deep
hey,
master-
Cortana,
No,
can you
instead-
fetch me?
No, instead he just sounds like me.
he shoots a guy in the head with a sniper. You want to go for some deep dish? But yeah, instead of that like booming
Two
deep
things master
voice,
like sausage and improv.
it was just some developer where he was like, "Hey, Chief," and he was like, "Hey, what's going on, guys?" And, like with a robot filter
That
on.
reminds me, have you ever seen like the Empire of
Dinklage in
Dreams
Destiny.
documentary for Star Wars? Like before they got James Earl Jones.
Oh, to do Darth Vader's voice, yeah. That
the
footage is
stunt
out
guy
there.
who was
Yeah.
talking Darth Vader did it. And he's like, "You're part of a rebel alliance."
Yeah.
So good.
Yep. But this demo was a video. And again, it was just, they panned over Master Chief shooting people from like a top-down kind of, like it was directed, right? It was like,
Yeah.
But it didn't show any third-person gameplay because the game couldn't really be played because it was missing two really big aspects of what Halo would eventually become. mission structure, and AI.
It's the little things.
Oh,
that
it's
get-
missing the AI. That's not important for their entire, fucking history of the company.
But there was another very important reason why the game was not shown from the perspective the player would be
This is
playing
what we've
from.
been building to for a while, haven't we?
Because there was an internal fight going on at Bungie at the time, whether they wanted to keep the game third person or whether they wanted to turn it into a first person shooter.
I'm curious what the sides were. I'm curious what side. What's his name? Jason
Jones?
Jason Jones.
He was third person
Really?
at first, but they
Really?
convinced
That
him.
surprises
Yeah,
me.
me
I was about to
too.
say, I figured he'd be on the first person
I'm glad
side.
the right
yeah.
side won that war.
Yeah,
and
for
not
sure.
but like then Bungie also kind of stayed there forever to really stick it to Jason, I guess.
Well,
'Cause-
yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. What's the timeline on this? Because, like, okay, there's a fine line between the absolute borderline slave labor hours game developers are forced to work
Oh, we'll
and
get there.
being passionate about creating video games.
Yeah.
Because this timeline seems very compressed to me.
Oh,
Because
right, yeah.
we're not even at first person yet.
No.
And once they reach first person, they develop some of the most absolutely
All right,
pivotal
this is
first
E3
person
2000.
To give you
This
a little
game
bit of a
was doing-
timeline, the original Xbox came out in November of 2001. We are in
This is in 2000.
We are in June of
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah, so we're a year and some odds away from Halo being released in a couple of months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't know if they want it to be third or first person. It also doesn't have any missions, and there's no AI. Remember that analogy in the last episode I made about them completing a marathon by limping across the finish line with no legs?
Yeah.
Well, it's incredible.
Did you read
the recent story
because,
about,
I mean, I'm sure you talk about this, but some of the things that Bungie developed for first-person shooter technology on console is in every single first-person shooter on console to come. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if you read the story recently about Sakurai, the director of Smash Brothers, was like working with a IV in him. Yeah, like
he passed out at
what?
work. He came in the next day with an IV in his arm because he
An IV
couldn't. Because he couldn't stay away because he wanted Smash to be that good.
Yeah,
and
he
it
is a workaholic,
Thank you,
for sure.
if you're listening.
Yes,
thank
please,
you, Sakurai.
thank you.
yeah.
You
No,
are-
this
you
game
are
is
the best.
incredible. Yeah, definitely deserved.
Not enough content though. Needs more characters.
Yeah, more characters, please. I want Master Chief.
Not totally believable anymore. That's the craziest part.
But while this whole fight was going on, there were some more behind-the-scenes talks happening at Bungie. On June 9th, 2000, a rumor was being passed around the internet that Microsoft was looking into acquiring Bungie, which was a big deal because, again, like I said, they had plenty of hype built up around Halo, but the hype was with PC and Mac players because every Bungie game had been PC and Mac, except for Oni, which wasn't out yet.
And Bungie, not that huge of a studio.
Yeah.
like
Maybe among computer players, but
right. No, I meant huge in terms of like the size because they acquired them for quite some cash.
Yeah.
Like, heck of a purchase. It paid
I
off.
mentioned a couple of these things in the Xbox episode, but to reiterate, 10 days later, on June 19th, 2000, the rumor was confirmed. Bungie was officially purchased by Microsoft for $30 million, and Halo was now slated to be a launch title for the Xbox.
They must have really saw that potential.
$30 million.
It was
the grass budget for Destiny.
It was a deal.
Pretty much.
I think it could be argued that this was probably one of the best investments in video game
Oh,
history.
absolutely.
Oh, for
yeah.
fucking sure,
Yeah.
dude. The Xbox is nothing without Halo.
did
I'm
Halo,
sorry.
uh,
As good as whatever the launch titles were that I don't remember.
I was about to
Crimson
say,
Skies.
did Halo make it as a launch title?
Yes.
Did they actually get
Yes.
it?
Yeah.
Good on them.
Right? Yeah.
I know. I just
At
usually
first
when
I thought
you
it
read
was
stories
slightly
about
later,
like we're
yeah,
shooting for a
yeah.
launch title, that's hard to
It
hit.
happens a lot now, but yeah, they did it.
Yeah.
It was a deal that worked out for both sides because, we're in the early 2000s. We're in the early days of PC shooters being like a thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can compete with the ids and the Valves of the world, or we can be the premier shooter for this
We
new
can be the Valve
console.
of consoles.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
you hear the phrase killer app a lot, and to me, that was first real coined with Halo.
Yes.
Like, even calling something a Halo killer, was a huge phrase back in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, every time a new console got announced, it was like, okay, what's the Halo equivalent? What's
Yeah.
the killer
Remember
app?
Killzone
I'm
1?
sorry.
Yeah. They
I,
did try and call that a Halo
I'm sorry.
killer,
I keep
didn't
forgetting
they?
names. The first dude. The first.
Jason Jones.
No, not Jason
Alex
Jones.
Serapian.
Yeah. You could tell he's stepped away from programming early. You could tell this dude had a fucking eye for what's happening.
Yeah.
Like the whole ADR thing, the whole fucking. There's no way he wasn't some sort of architect.
ARG.
Oh yes, sorry, ARG thing. This is what the fuck did I say?
ADR.
ADR.
Additional dialogue
Yeah.
Spaghetti westerns
So I
on your
watch
mind.
a lot of horrible movies and television. No, but like you can tell he kind of had a bit of marketing forward thinking. Like,
Oh, yeah.
he was
totally.
definitely on the edge of like,
Yeah.
holy shit, dog! Like we got something
Yeah,
here. Like
yeah,
let's
yeah.
go to Microsoft because. They're about to make a console that's gonna possibly fucking be. Well,
And
obviously we turned out wasn't.
This was pre like Halo going like multimedia too.
Yeah.
Like,
So this-
like I feel like he definitely had a decent foresight
So
here.
this was a
Yeah.
little bit of both, though, because Microsoft came to them.
that's
reason,
fair, but
The reason Microsoft came
They
to
needed
them
it at the time.
was because he did not go to Microsoft. He
Okay.
went to another tech giant that they had a history with, Apple.
he went to Apple.
Yeah.
And he offered Steve Jobs the ability to buy Bungie for $30 million, just like Microsoft did. And Steve Jobs turned him down
Who was
and said,
mad?
that's
And now he's dead. So see what happens when you.
he's like, that's too high of a price. I bet we could like wait him out and get that down. And then Microsoft heard a rumor and was like, fuck, dude,
Yeah,
we'll pay you
go
$30
for
million.
it, yeah.
That's a
And
steal.
then-
Bill
Yeah.
Gates had to be creeping his way up to one of the richest people, at this
Yeah.
point.
And fucking
I want to like him, but he just. I'm sorry. All right, I don't mean to do it. Just go on.
Steve Jobs was pissed.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs personally called Steve Ballmer of Microsoft
Yeah.
to scream at him through the phone for buying Bungie.
I want to sit on that phone
You
call,
call,
dude.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Steve Ballmer, being the good executive that he is, passed the buck down to head of Microsoft Game Studios, Ed Fries, who comes up a lot in our Xbox episode.
Yeah, he does.
He was one of the main people that got this whole deal going. And so Steve Jobs was apparently so pissed off and wouldn't let up that a deal was officially signed that Microsoft Game Studios would make a deal where they would port their games to Mac, starting with Halo. Which is why I
that
asked if
true?
it actually
Right,
Does
came
that
out.
yeah.
still
Actually.
happen?
No, not anymore.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs is dead, and Apple doesn't have anything to worry about. So,
What
I mean,
do they
they-
make now? What do-
Their focus on games also
I don't know, hold
petered
on.
out, kind of show. You're looking at your iPhone.
how about my iPhone? But yeah, like I said, Jobs was mad at himself for turning down
Turn it down.
Bungie's
Yeah.
offer.
What
And-
if Mac was a premier fucking gaming console?
Yeah, I mean,
now?
there was a time that
Do
was
you
almost
think-
true. Yeah.
do you-
To be fair, that was just as wild as Microsoft or Sony getting into the
Yeah, I was
console
going to say,
game.
there,
yeah.
there's two kind of like alternate timelines in my head. One, Mac releases Halo.
Yeah.
It falls to the wayside as an Apple game.
Oh, and it's forgotten
And
or
it's
something?
forgotten,
Yeah.
and there's no Halo. And then in response, there's no fucking Xbox. And now we have the Sega whatever and the fucking Nintendo dominated
Yeah.
market in PlayStation, you know? Or does Mac become a premier fucking.
Well,
what
it's-
alternate
it's-
universe
the
is
funny thing
Mac
is-
Yeah.
battling
that
PC for
conversation
gaming
is like
right now?
weirdly relevant now with all of the talk of Amazon and Google getting into video game
too
space.
late.
Not for them.
Is it? Show me something.
Video
You
games.
know,
is still-
then like sell me on it. I think
Google
it's too
has
late.
that streaming tech. That's the,
Yeah, Google
Oh
has a-
yeah, fuck! I just read about that. That is dope.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
Fuck, I forgot about that. That is insane
pretty wild,
technology.
yeah.
I have to talk to you guys about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
me and Randy talked about it, and Comcast needs to up their fucking game before
Yeah.
we can use that.
Yeah, it wouldn't
technology.
work for
oh
us
yeah,
anyway.
absolutely. No. Whoever was talking about, we were talking about Google Fiber, and I was like, "Well, is fiber available there?" And they're like, "Well, yeah." I was like, "Well, good for fucking them."
Them,
then.
yeah. We're
Yeah.
gonna be the last people to get that.
Yeah, with the giant looming Comcast
Yeah,
tower
with
when we look out the window.
The big fat USB
No fiber.
drive and in the middle of the fucking skyline. I've made fun of that building a few times.
For those of you who don't know,
giant
we're
USB
we're
drive.
broadcasting out of Dubai. That's what we're talking about. The giant
okay.
Comcast
Yeah.
tower.
the
in
Wiz
Dubai.
Khalifa building.
Yeah.
The Burj Khalifa.
Yeah, whatever.
Wiz Khalifa building.
It's a 200-story tower with a giant joint hanging out on the top of it.
But this led to a couple really important changes. The first being that Bungie was no longer to be based in Chicago and San Diego. They were now going to move all of their employees
Say
from
goodbye to them hot
Chicago
dogs.
to Redmond, Washington, where Microsoft was.
Are they still there?
They're in Seattle now.
Okay.
I think they always were in Seattle. I don't know. But they're in Washington still, Bungie. But this was an important change because Redmond, Washington is big because that's where Microsoft is. But Redmond, Washington is not a huge city.
No.
There's a lot of forests and mountains.
Yeah.
And so that environment really inspired what would eventually become the environment for Halo. If you remember those first couple
exactly.
levels.
When you crash land, the first thing is all fucking giant pines, rivers and shit like that.
That was all
Yeah.
inspired by
That's
their
cool.
move from Chicago to Redmond.
That's really cool.
Makes sense.
But the move for the game from PC Mac to Xbox led to one very important change. You talk about Halo influencing the future of first-person shooters. They found out that because of the lack of RAM, the Xbox only had 64 megabytes of RAM at the time, which was their minimum settings for what that was their minimum recommended settings for when Halo would have come out on PC.
Yeah.
So they needed to make some changes to get this thing running on Xbox. And the one main change they made was shooters at the time, and still even to this day, but
Much more back then, yeah.
let you carry as many weapons as you wanted,
Yeah.
you know, and they were all on PC, so it's like, oh, if I hit, you know, in Half-Life, it's like, if I
Very,
hit
very,
5,
yeah,
I get
very
the
valid.
Yeah, you
gravity
have
gun.
every single weapon
Yeah.
you can
It's
carry
like
in
one's the
Half-Life.
pistol, two's the SMG, 3 is like the,
Yeah.
you know, the crowbar.
By the end
whatever.
of the game, you're just a walking fucking
But
armory.
that didn't work with only 64 megabytes of RAM. So they decided
That's a strange change.
It
they
is, yeah.
decided to switch so that the player would only be able to carry 2 weapons at a time.
accidentally creating another.
creating one of the
That
biggest
is
trends in
literally
shooter
in every
history.
single
is.
fucking
Oh,
video
yeah.
game
Rainbow
on
Six,
Earth.
Call of Duty.
2 weapons.
Yeah, that's the 2 weapon thing.
That is crazy that comes from fucking a RAM issue.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
Again, you can't really keep developing a game when you have to pick up your entire office and move it halfway across the country. So the move from Chicago to Redmond
had to delay that a little bit.
delayed
Yeah.
development significantly. And here's the crazy part, to get back to what Chris was saying earlier about the crunch hours and stuff like that. As of September 2000, which would have been 1 year and 2 months before the game came out, the campaign had not yet been started on.
And this is all also like developing on a console that's not done yet either, as we found out in that
Yeah.
Xbox episode.
Yeah.
Which is kind of good for Bungie because they're like, fuck it, we got some time as long as they're still doing that.
Yeah.
I love how late, like how huge of an aspect this was that late in the game. I know I keep quoting a lot, but it is very much like a reverse GoldenEye with its multiplayer. Like Split Screen was a last minute addition to that game. That's what everyone remembers it for.
Yeah.
But it's like the campaign in Halo is so memorable, and yet that didn't come until like well after.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, a lot of these decisions were like, we only have time for this, and then it ended up being so iconic. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, when you can't work on the game, you don't have new stuff to show off. So basically, for the rest of 2000, there's not a lot of public footage to go off of how Halo developed. There were a lot of rumors that now that people knew that Halo was going to be coming out on the Xbox and that the Xbox was coming out and that Halo was a big deal, everybody wanted to see what Halo looked like running on the Xbox. And
Understandable.
There were rumors that the game would be shown off at CES, which did not happen at the beginning of 2001,
Right.
January. There were even rumors that the Xbox would have a Super Bowl commercial in February of 2001 that heavily featured Halo.
But it never happened.
But one never aired.
Just like that Titanfall tricked me earlier this year.
Yeah, not Titanfall, Apex
Psych,
Legends.
it's a battle royale.
Fuck.
You guys excited for Borderlands Battle Royale?
Just
All
bury
right,
me.
Go on.
just bury me.
And at the time, Microsoft had its own conference that they held every year, which went through a lot of changes.
Do they
But
still do this?
no,
Okay.
but it was
They have
called
their own stuff
it was
now.
called GameStop.
Yeah, because I saw that on the docket here, and I was like, I have no idea what that is.
Woodstock, but with games. You know how Woodstock was all about wood.
But it doesn't matter because they had the best demo ever to show at this
Yeah.
thing.
So Microsoft had a conference called GameStop, which was in March of 2001. But this was a much bigger deal for Microsoft because usually it was like, hey, here's the latest and greatest in PC flight simulators. But now they had a console to promote, so they had a lot going on. And one of those things was a new demo of Halo. And the demo came from the game's Silent Cartographer level.
Fucking A.
Which is one of the most memorable levels from that game because of this demo and also because it was included as a demo on other games. Like if you bought Fusion Frenzy, you could play the Silent Cartographer level in like a sub menu with like extras and then play a Halo demo.
I played. I think I downloaded this on my computer back in the day, but it's what sold me.
Yeah.
The music and everything. Like, it even kind of showcased the, like, openness of the levels and the vehicles. Like, it had everything in it.
Every first-person shooter prior to this game felt like walking down a hallway, shooting something, turning thing. There was nothing that had this sort of open...
No,
It felt so much more dimensional. It was insane. That is something we take for granted nowadays, which is absolutely like, boom, here you go. A fucking open field where you can strafe left or right as long as you want.
And there was no time constraints in that demo, so you could really just explore it any way you wanted.
It's just like that dimensional fucking sort of combat was...
Yeah.
It's just exploding my head still thinking about the fact that what it did nowadays, you know?
Yeah. 2001.
Nothing else happened that year, dude. 2001, that was the year for Halo demos.
Freddy Got Fingered came out that year.
Yeah. We already talked about 9/11 so much in the Xbox episode. You can't bring up 9/11 anymore.
That's going to be tough for me, I'm going to be honest.
But the demo started with Master Chief in the Banshee, the Covenant plane that you could fly in Halo 1.
Yeah.
And then he would land the Banshee, and he got out of the Banshee, and he was in third person. And up until this point, Halo was a third-person shooter. Like I said, there were internal arguments at Bungie about whether to switch from third to first, but it was never said that Halo was going to be a first-person shooter until it showed him in third person running around and then zoomed in, and then all of a sudden, first person.
Yeah.
And this was the first time anybody saw Halo running in first person. Because they had finally agreed that the game would be a first-person game.
They duked it out.
But I want to sit in on that meeting, dude. That was probably awesome.
The compromise, which also affected Halo very heavily, was that driving would not be in first person.
That's
right.
fair.
Yeah.
Which is so important,
Yes.
dude.
The game
Fuck,
didn't work.
you imagine driving a Warthog in first person?
I love the way those feel. It's like you drive it with just the joystick.
The joysticks, yeah.
It's neat.
Which is a driving system that's in a billion games
now,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
The game didn't work too well driving in first person, but the game worked better shooting in first person, so the compromise was made that any vehicles would be done in third person, and any shooting
totally fair.
out of the vehicles would be in first person.
That's fair. I honestly prefer first person, obviously, shooters to third.
Yeah. But I do prefer third person driving. I never do cockpit driving in a game unless I can't.
We often play like GTA, and we're like, all right, let's play first person, let's have a good time.
But then
You're still driving in third person.
There's options
you know?
that you can set it so that when you get into a car, it'll switch to third, and then you can play the rest in first.
Not to say there aren't good third person shooters. I would say Gears of War and fucking Division and Ghost Recons and shit like that. But
people figured it out. But there's something. The level of immersion for first person games always.
Halo is absolutely necessary to be first person.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the main sticking point of this whole argument was that when they decided, okay, this should be first person instead of third person, when that argument started, they were still on PC. They weren't purchased by Microsoft and going to be an Xbox launch title yet. Now, the decision had to be made whether to keep it third person, because first person shooters, other than those developed by Rare, did not do too well on consoles.
No.
That's true.
Because it's hard to shoot with joysticks.
Rare was kind of the only people that figured it out before them. So it's interesting, just like a tiny little thing here. GoldenEye and Perfect Dark had options to use two joysticks if you plugged in two controllers. It did not obviously feel great.
It's horse shit.
But when Time Splitters...
I went 6 handles. Thanks.
When Time Splitters 1 came out on PlayStation 2, that was a double joystick shooter. And what's interesting is if you go back and read a lot of reviews, like a lot of people were not about that control scheme at the time, because the way that they figured out the movement and strafe, the original Time Splitters may have made history being one of the first like dual joystick shooters on a controller, but they didn't map it the same way Halo did. The way that they did
the turning and the
they weren't separated.
It was moving and turning on the left stick, and then strafing and up and down on the right stick.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Which is fucked up.
Which is fucked up. But like there was no
but...
blueprint at the time, so like they thought that made sense.
That's crazy that blueprint is applied to third-person games now too.
But because
it's applied to everything.
It is. And what's interesting is like because camera control and stuff, people were figuring that stuff out. But after Halo 1 came out, and they're like, this is the way that a first-person shooter should feel on a controller with two joysticks. Then when Time Splitters 2 came out in 2002,
it had that fucking scheme.
It played like that, and it was like, oh shit. Because the funny thing is, people remember Time Splitters 2 a lot more than they remember Time Splitters 1, and that's for that reason.
Too. And I played them both religiously.
They were both spiritual spiritual successors to those N64 shooters. It was made by Free Radical, which was ex-Rare guys, but like it wasn't until Halo 1 that was like, no, this is how it should play.
That's kind of like a thing we take for granted too as people who play games. Like, don't forget, if you listen to this podcast, because obviously you enjoy video games, like it took me a minute to realize, like when I watched my brother's pretty decent at Destiny and first-person shooters now,
Right.
but he wasn't. He grew up in the 80s.
It's a
there were
weird
no
visual
games like that
yeah.
when he was a kid playing games, and we take that movement
We
shit
do,
for
yeah.
granted. The
It's
fact that
weird
you can just step
how-
into a game and be like,
I
oh,
don't-
this is strafe, this is look,
the
this
first
is
time
this,
I picked
you
up
know?
Halo on a controller, it felt so intuitive, but maybe it was like I like slowly got into that. But it's interesting to think at the time, like playing Halo for the first time on a controller might have felt really jarring to somebody who doesn't understand having that camera control
Yeah.
and stuff before.
To be
Like,
honest, do you think it's because of mouse and keyboard? Think about that placement. Mouse on the right, movement strafing on the left.
probably
And
that's probably what they were going
That
for
is
with time
absolutely
splitters.
what
Yeah.
the controls are. That your joystick is strafe,
Yeah.
and move left
That's
versus
true.
the
Yeah.
camera right, like a mouse.
It's funny
Yeah.
because I have written here, like, a lot of people at Bungie thought that the move could hurt the game.
That switch to first
To the
person.
Switch to
person.
first person.
Those got fired.
Bungie was very committed and worked very hard to make sure that a first-person shooter felt as natural on a controller as it did on mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
And that's my
Yeah.
favorite thing about Bungie. Do you
And
talk
they
about
fucking
all this shit?
nailed it.
They fucking nailed
imagine
it,
Free
dude.
Radical, because like Time Splitters was a launch game on PS2, and then like Halo becomes a launch title for Xbox, and they're just like, fuck, like why didn't we think of?
Do you talk about like what they did and shit like that? Because I don't want to like steal the thunder.
No,
but
go
like
for it.
that
Yeah.
wasn't me and you were talking about this the other night, right?
Yeah.
The friction thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
The friction
aim
thing?
assist and friction. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that when you shoot somebody close to their head, it counts as the
It does,
head.
yeah.
Okay. And friction. Like think about a mouse. Like with a mouse, I can aim at your head very
Yeah.
easily, shoot, click, point, kill.
Yeah.
If you were to try to do that with a joystick, you'd be fucking
Oh, yeah, no,
constantly
totally.
it
Yeah.
sucks on a podcast
It's-
format, but you'd be moving left and right, left
Me
without
and-
being able to center.
Does-
They added friction, which means that when you cross
shit,
an enemy's
We talked
zone,
about this.
it'll literally slow down.
Right.
talked about
the
this.
Yeah, we
movement.
did talk about this
Because
before.
Resident Evil 2, the remake that just came out, has an option where you can turn that on or off.
Yeah. God, when it's off, it's so fucking
It's gotta
hard.
be hard.
It's so
Yeah.
hard.
It's got to be hard. It's got to be like Grand Theft
Yeah.
Auto because Grand
Yeah.
Theft Auto doesn't have that friction,
It's-
but it has auto
It's
lock,
very
which
funny
is different.
because
but, like,
another thing that like because Halo had a little bit of that aim assist in that first game.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying.
So-
they developed that
but what's
friction
funny
where you
is, like-
cross the first person target. Your
and
cursor literally slows
I'm
down.
gonna make fun of my
you know?
own children here, but with GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, they had that aim assist, but also, do you remember you had to like manually aim? You like hold the thing down
and
to
it-
like turn
remember,
to
it moved
look
like this. Like
Yeah.
I'm sorry, podcast listeners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it fucking
and it was even
insane.
worse on a lot of PC shooters back in the day with the dimensions of like having to stand still on like games
Yeah.
like Dark Forces and stuff like that to look
That,
up
that
and down.
friction was give that guy $1 billion.
Yeah, to
because
figure
that
that
is in
out.
every
Oh, he
fucking
has $1
first
billion.
person. You know what I mean? Like whoever
Yeah.
fucking programmed that and said that, that is pivotal to the rest of gaming history.
Yeah.
Like for the next 20 years, that
It's-
is,
I
is
wonder-
absolutely crucial.
I know we've been talking about
That
this for a while now,
friction.
but I wonder if that was an idea that they could have patented.
I'm sure it is patented because I
don't know.
I'm sure it is. There's
Like,
no way that's
I
not
don't think it
patented.
is.
I don't
You
think it
it
is. Yeah, because if that was the case, like every single game would have to like,
Hey, Bungie.
yeah.
Why does Bungie have so much money? Maybe why are they still open
'Cause they're
after Destiny
selling
2
real-
sucked so bad? They must have patents, dude. But no, I'm serious. Just props to Bungie.
No, absolutely,
Because the things they did with first person shooters in the last minute of their development.
Yeah, it's really wild.
That's
yeah.
that's why I love this company.
But they were working hard. They were crunching like crazy. And this is where
have their IV drips.
this is where a lot of stuff that we now know as Halo, that like Halo would feel weird if you didn't include
Yeah,
it in,
totally.
was like on the chopping block. Like this is where they finally made the decision to include the 2-player co-op that we
Best
now,
feature.
that
Yeah.
we now all attribute to Halo.
Which is hilarious because they fucked up and got rid of it in 5. Like
Yeah.
it has to be coming back in the next one.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because like even Gears was quick to damage control on that when the fourth game came out. They're like, it's got split screen again.
But nothing was shown about the multiplayer because Bungie
Right.
didn't know if multiplayer was actually going to make the final game.
Yeah, Halo multiplayer, not famous at all. So,
It's so
don't worry
funny
about
that
it.
like their demos didn't have a campaign, and then they were building a campaign, and they're like, maybe we want a multiplayer. Like, it's so like It's amazing that this turned out the way it did.
But yeah, Jason Jones had a company meeting where he was like, listen, guys, I don't think we're going to be able to get multiplayer in this thing. And 2 employees, God bless them, Michael Evans and Hardy Leibel,
Goddamn
are their 2
heroes.
names, stepped up, pulled them aside after that meeting and said, we will not ship this game without multiplayer.
Thank those guys from my childhood.
They stepped up and they committed to working more than full time to make sure that Halo 1 had multiplayer.
Yeah.
Whatever the cost. And even then, Jason Jones said, you guys can go for it, but I still don't know if you'll be able to get it done. But we now know that they got it done. And
so down to the wire.
This got to be within 6 to 5 months of the release of the game.
This is a little bit before E3, so we're talking like maybe 9 months out. But this conversation about multiplayer was going on. The story mode was still in shambles. Like that also was nowhere near completed. That silent cartographer level was coming along, and
you need.
And they had the whole campaign written. It was written by Jason Jones and also Joe Staten, who a lot of people know is famous for he's like the story lead.
But they didn't have the rest of like the assets laid out for this yet?
Yeah. I'm sure they had some assets from like the original shit, but like they were probably so far behind.
Yeah.
They had the idea to add the flood, but the flood weren't made yet.
The flood weren't made yet.
They had missions that were cut entirely. They had other missions that they planned that they chopped in half and smushed together because their main goal right now was, we might not have multiplayer. This story mode needs to be long enough for people to not hate us for paying $60 for it.
How long is Halo 1? It's decent for the time.
6 to 8 hours.
It's only hard because your health doesn't recharge. That's the only reason it's long.
Boop, 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 boop.
And the profits were intended to be in the game. A lot of scenes straight out of Halo 2 were cut from Halo 1.
I do remember hearing about
we
that
talked
before.
About that. Yeah. Because the Halo 2 had a lot of shit that was supposed to be in 1.
Yeah.
Including that sword.
And all their hype and buzz that had surrounded their game was kind of starting to fade out because this whole while Bungie was like, we can't just like stay away and not show people our progress. We got to show people our progress so that they stay hyped.
Because they've been hyping for 2 years almost now, you know?
And journalists were coming in.
I'm sure Microsoft was sweating. There's a lot riding on this thing.
Journalists were coming in. They were playing the game or what they had of the game.
And they were like, is this going to be ready?
Journalists were then quoted as saying the game is barely playable. A lot of them said that the Xbox launch is less than a year away, and I don't see this thing coming together in less than a year.
Oh, man.
And then
scary.
All this is going
to
on.
Say that though.
Oh, yeah.
Flash forward, E3 2001 rolls around, and Bungie had actually managed to cobble together enough to show off both single player and multiplayer. Multiplayer was now in the game because they were showing it off at E3. They're like, all right, multiplayer is going to be in the game. But a couple of problems, and one of these problems was actually, again, mentioned in our Xbox episode. The Xbox dev kits were not done. They were running...
Oh, yeah.
They were also fucked up.
Yeah, they were running at half of their power, which meant that every game that they showed off at E3 that year was running at half power. So the games ran like absolute trash.
I know. It's just it's such a weird conjunction of two different half cobbled together ideas trying to line up at the same fucking time. It's a fucking miracle that it lined up and happened, dude. It really is. Well, it's not a miracle. No, I'm sorry. Fuck religion.
Well, no, it's
not
hard.
a miracle. It's because
of
people worked their asses off to fucking do that shit.
Yeah, they pulled a miracle, but it was earned.
Yeah. The game, on top of the Xbox dev kits running at half power and the game not running well, it was absolutely littered with bugs. The games were crashing all the time. People were having issues with the AI. It was not working to the point where all those E3 awards that came out, instead of Halo being awarded best of E3 like everybody expected, it was actually awarded a lot of biggest disappointment of E3 awards. So in addition to being awarded biggest disappointment of E3, Bungie was also informed that Xbox Live would not be ready in time for launch.
Yeah.
Right.
Which meant that the game could not have online multiplayer.
But they did make up for it.
So it was local only.
Yeah.
And this is when the idea for LAN was added, which was a huge deal.
Yeah.
For
16
Halo 1.
players, too.
Yep.
That was probably a bit of a relief. I'm sure that it's easier to... I don't know. Do you know if it's easier to code for LAN than it is to some sort of online?
It's pretty much the same.
It is pretty much the same.
And
I would do that, too. I didn't know. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
I'll get to that in a second. There was a lot of stuff that we now know as being integral to Halo that was still in flux. The tank was completely taken out of the game at this point. and was only added back in way later in development. The
Hooray.
Scorpion was originally not supposed to be in Halo 1.
Yeah.
At one point, they had a meeting to decide whether they wanted to focus on the shotgun or the sniper because they couldn't get both working.
So they cut one of the
So
other?
they were gonna-
Obviously, the sniper, right? That's what they focused on.
They were either going to cut the shotgun or
Two
the
of-
sniper
two of the
and
dopest
keep
weapon.
the other one in. But again, some employees stepped up, worked really hard, and they
Yeah.
managed to keep both of them in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, shout out to the shotgun guy because you know they kept the sniper. You know what I mean? So shout out to the shotgun guy who put in the hours,
The flamethrower was still in the game at this point, which
didn't show back up till Halo 3.
hold on.
Well, that was only,
Fans will know if anybody
Well, yeah.
played the PC port of Halo, which was
did.
made by Gearbox. They will know
that was Gearbox.
Yep.
That's so weird.
The people will know that the flamethrower is only in the PC version
Yes.
of Halo 1, not in the Xbox
I think
version.
It's incredible.
there
It's
was
in Master
one
Chief
other
Collection, too.
one as well. Wasn't the fuel rod launcher only in the PC
Yes.
version
Yeah.
as well?
Yep.
Yeah. In my experience, so the funny thing is, like, I didn't have an Xbox in 2001, and I went to friends' houses and I played it on split screen.
Idiot.
Shut up. And I was like, this is awesome. And then I downloaded the demo on PC, which was the Silent Cartographer level and Blood Gulch for multiplayer.
Blood
and then
Gulch,
I
yes.
bought Halo on PC and then went to my friend's house to play it on Xbox because I didn't have one at the time.
Split screen multiplayer was in and working, but LAN
yeah.
being added late was not working. They had trouble getting enough dev kits together to actually test 16 full people playing because Microsoft was
Because
so
Microsoft didn't have enough. Holy shit!
Microsoft was so
That's so
short on dev
great.
kits.
We need
and-
more Dukes.
And when they could
Make more of these, you fucking idiots.
when Bungie could get together enough dev kits, LAN kept crashing. But again, as we now know,
Could you imagine that? Like, we need a dev kit to test. No, this company Bungie's got all of them.
We can't port Crazy Taxi. They got all the dev kits.
Yeah.
But as we know now that LAN was in the game and working, and a pretty big feature. I mean, it got people buying Xboxes because they're like, oh, I'm going to go to my friend's house, bring my Xbox, and we're going to play 16 people.
Oh, yeah.
But this is where another big decision comes through. Bungie was facing issues with the name.
Yeah, which I didn't know this.
Yeah, the name of the game was Halo. Just Halo.
It was
But,
just blam! Exclamation point.
But Microsoft had a problem with that. They didn't think it was marketable. It didn't.
Because it wasn't Monkey Nuts or whatever?
No. They thought it didn't translate well enough what kind of game it was.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah,
So they-
exactly. They're like, Halo doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Which, in all fairness, at that point, it meant nothing.
Well, it's true, but it's like it's funny because in the early 2000s, video game names were so fucking generic.
Yeah.
It was like very much like a generator. But now we've gotten to the point where it's come around where like video game names don't mean anything anymore
Yeah.
again.
I know,
'Cause
like,
look at
Sekiro Shadows Die Twice or whatever it is.
Horizon Zero
What
Dawn.
a
What does that
fucking
mean?
dumb game
Yeah.
name, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And we can't all have great names like Resident Evil.
But
Yeah.
but Bungie fought back against them. They're like, we need to add something that kind of conveys what kind of game this is more than just the word Halo.
Besides the box art of the guy pointing a gun at
and
the...
Bungie was like, no, fuck you. We like just the name Halo.
Yeah.
It's aesthetic.
So,
period.
It's a great name.
A compromise was reached.
Which-
the game would be called Halo: Combat Evolved, but the name Halo Combat Evolved does not appear anywhere but the box art.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I remember
Which
you pointing that out
fucking
before, and I
A.
never
Good
noticed
on,
it.
Good on Bungie, because
Yeah.
not a single person calls that first game fucking Halo Combat Evolved. You know what I mean?
You're
It's
right.
called Halo.
Oh yeah, trust me, it felt weird to me reading it in both of the
Yeah,
intros.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So good on fucking Bungie for sticking to their guns and finding a nice loophole. Because history tells.
Imagine if
nobody
2,
gives
3,
a
and
fuck
4 all
about
had
that.
like and 5 like all had their own
Yeah,
like.
exactly.
Oh wait, Halo 5 does.
Garbage game. Garbage game.
Garbage. But yeah, the title menu for the game and any other mention of the name of the game in the game
Yeah.
just has that iconic Halo logo.
I wonder
no
if it's on the
Combat
pamphlet
Evolved.
inside the box.
Dude, aesthetic. I'm telling you. Fuck Combat Evolved.
Yeah. This was also around September 2001, so we're getting close.
Yeah.
We're like 2 months out now.
They had to send it in to get rated, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
September 2001. That's a rough time for game ratings. Am I right?
Oh, God, I didn't even think of that. Stop bringing up 9/11. But
We can bring
Yeah.
up that or the movie Hackers. They both come up about the same. And
zero cool. Halo : zero cool.
Made him choke on his drink.
Fuck. I just thought about the guys skateboarding through the fucking server room. That movie's so dumb.
That's great.
But yeah, the game was submitted to our good old friends at the ESRB. Check out our 3-parter on the ESRB if you want to learn more about how that whole thing started.
Yeah.
But the game received a T for teen. And the game also reached something called release candidate status, which I don't know if you guys know what that means.
No clue.
No.
It's basically like, you know how they have like pre-alpha, alpha, beta, and then gold?
Yes, I'm familiar how games are horribly developed nowadays.
Yeah. So this is like post-beta, but pre-gold.
But not gold yet?
Okay.
Yeah, it's like if something goes horribly wrong, this release candidate can ship and we'll be okay with it, but we have a lot more work to do.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it means. So,
But you can still buy it on Steam for $44.99.
yeah.
It's still pre-order.
So it was done. The campaign was now done. Cutscenes were being added a week before this and finished, but they were done. The
Red versus
multiplayer was done, but they had a lot more bugs that needed fixing. They had a lot more balancing they needed doing. Another interesting side note that I read is that it was actually kind of unheard of at the time to have a shooter where the weapons were balanced, which is actually now a big problem with Destiny that a lot of people complain about, but it was actually unheard of at the time to have the same engine sort of run both your multiplayer and your single player. So like
Which is a thing that plagues all modern video games.
But Bungie was dedicated to that, so they like, if a gun handled like this in single player, it has to handle like this in multiplayer too.
Which this is something that came that happened in
Destiny,
the Division 2, which
AI
may or may not have just come out, or depending on when you're listening to this.
Yeah.
3
But
years old.
The controls in single player are a little bit clunkier to solve a problem that arose in Division 1's multiplayer. So because it's the same engine, the reason the controls are a bit more clunky in the single player for Division 2 are because of that.
Yeah.
Which is fucking trash.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a little weird.
But whatever.
But
But Destiny's a little bit more. The multiplayer and single player are a little bit more tied together than
Yeah.
something like the Division, but still it
which
shows.
is a Bungie thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Still it shows,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, at this point, the game could not be pushed back since the game was being printed on. Well, the game was being printed on the box for the Xbox itself, but as we now know with the PS4 and Watch Dogs, that doesn't really mean much of anything anymore.
That's true. There's a bunch of delayed games on that original PS.
Yeah.
I think Drive Club's on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the game could not be pushed back. They were at release candidate status, but they needed to fix these bugs if they wanted good reviews, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, a book deal had been reached to release a prequel book called Halo: Fall of Reach, which actually released in October of 2001. It came out a
I
month.
bought
Really?
that. I bought that
came
after the game. I didn't know it was that soon.
I had no idea. That was that long ago?
I had no idea.
Holy shit.
It was before the game.
Yeah.
Because props to that universe is very well fleshed out and very well established. I like that. I like that a lot.
it's cool. So when do they have to go back for the resubmit? Where did the M rating come from?
I'm getting to it.
Okay, sorry.
So the Xbox was pushed back a week to allow for additional production so they can make more units of it to sell.
Right.
So that gave them 1 extra week of time to work on the game. And then they got some more distressing news, as Randy just spoiled.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. The ESRB, they did not resubmit anything.
Oh, they didn't.
No.
They just found out about multiplayer.
The ESRB, I guess some dude was just like looking back on his notes and they just sent Bungie a letter and was like, hey,
you told me the blood was blue.
Yeah.
Now it's red.
we changed our minds. Halo is no longer T for teen, it is now M. Because a box art for the game leaked, which was not the final box art, but it did have an M rating on it. So somebody actually emailed Bungie, and I found a record of the email. Somebody said, hey, I thought the game was team. Why is this
happened?
say it's M?
It was a big deal back then. Teenagers. And
Somebody at Bungie responded and said, I guess the first thing I should say is something I don't get to say very often. The rumor is true. Halo's rating has been changed from teen to mature. How this happens is a very long and tedious story, but here's the short version. The more they thought about it, the more Halo seemed like a mature title to the folks at the ESRB. They told us we would need to make some changes to the game if we wanted to keep our teen rating. Trivial work did not make the game any less fun or compromise the vision of our designers. Other changes, however, would require a lot of last-minute work and change the atmosphere of the game in significant ways. The team decided to keep the game as we originally submitted it to the ESRB, which now means shipping Halo with an M rating. This does affect us. M-rated games are
At the
not
time.
sold to certain audiences or advertised in certain markets. They are off limits to young people. If any of these factors prevent you from getting your hands on Halo, we're sorry, but we did what we felt we had to do.
What's weird is that like it's such a mild, like all of them were rated M up until 5, and 5 didn't change anything.
Yeah.
Except
It
for
was
sucking. It
well,
changed that.
no, I just meant like the level of violence in those
that came
games
from
never.
Reach.
The level of violence in Halo never changed. It was just by the time 5 came out, standards
We're so
changed.
desensitized by polygonal map design and bullshit aliens getting shot.
Because I remember when Halo 5 got rated, they're like, "Oh, that was the rating we were always going for, like 20 years ago."
But the game was officially sent to certification on October 18th, 2001.
It's my favorite part of the story.
But not before one hidden chains.
It's my favorite part.
Jason Jones himself had went in and increased the damage value for the pistol at the last minute. Before any testing could be done, the game was sent to certification, and thus the unstoppable monster that was Halo 1's pistol was born.
Yes. It already had a fucking scope on
Really?
it.
He just was like, last minute, and then that history is made.
Yep.
So good.
Which is why the Magnum sucks so much in Halo 2.
Yeah,
They
it really
overcorrected.
does. It was never that good again.
But yeah, they heard back 1 week later, October 24th, 2001. The game had officially passed cert. And so therefore, a month later, with the Xbox, it was released. And we know the rest of the story.
The rest is
It
rock and roll
sucks.
history.
Bungie closed down. They never made another
crashed.
game again.
No, there was no Xbox.
As Chris has reiterated a lot of times throughout both of these episodes, that we probably wouldn't have an Xbox brand if it wasn't for Halo.
Oh, absolutely.
I think
yeah.
the game is currently sitting at a 97 or 98 on Metacritic. It's one of the greatest games of all time.
Fucking
It is
incredible.
one of my favorite games of all
How do you
time.
really feel? This is weird. Hey, you know what it's tied with?
If you say GoldenEye, I'll kill you.
It's not. It's tied with Perfect Dark because Perfect Dark is 1
Perfect
point
Dark-
higher than GoldenEye.
Perfect Dark's just like GoldenEye without Pierce Brosnan. It sucks.
Fuck you.
I'm trying to gush about Halo. Don't bring
Sorry.
GoldenEye into this.
I'm gonna. Game respect game.
But yeah, it went on to spawn a $1 billion franchise that's still going to this day.
It is.
Books, comics. There's been rumors of
Figures.
movies, but
Like
we
anime.
got animes
Yeah.
and
District 9. Thanks, District 9.
Oh yeah, that's very
District
true.
9 started out
Fuck
as a
yeah,
Halo
District-
movie.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, that Peter Jackson produced Halo.
you know,
movie.
master fucking. If you have the voice thing turned on, the lady is called Cortana.
Oh my god,
Oh,
you
that's
can
when
turn
the-
that off?
That-
What?
Yeah, you can turn that
That's
off.
such a weird thing. I remember when like they updated those OSs to have that. And my mom was like, "What's Cortana?" And I was like, "Man, video games are weird. Like it's just
Yeah,
like
right?
transcended." And yeah.
The live action, the Halo trailer, the live action trailer.
Oh, the one with the figure set for 3?
No, no, no,
Because that's
no, no, no,
that's
no, no.
one of the best.
There's like
ads
a
I
live
think.
action version that they use where it's like there's like it's just a battle scene. It's fucking
Yeah.
awesome. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah.
It's not part of any movie or anything like that. It's just fucking amazing.
yeah.
Dude.
Yep.
Forward Unto Dawn actually also really cool.
Yes.
I really enjoyed
Yes.
that flick.
Master Chief himself went on to pretty much become one of the most iconic representations of a game character in the modern
which is
2000s.
weird because he was so generic.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
But
not
yet
to
he would
mention,
still
like we
be on
said,
Mount Rushmore, though. Like
friction
a
for
video
fucking
game Mount
first-person
Rushmore.
shooters. A little thing called matchmaking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Well, yeah.
You ever heard of it,
Yeah.
fucking nerds? You know what I mean? Like, holy shit.
It's-
yeah.
So much came out of this fucking franchise that,
I
like,
mean, and you know, and we all have stories about like it was an ingenious
Made
idea
slumber
because it was
parties.
like, how did you? I want to know how you heard about Halo 1.
about Halo 1?
Yeah, Combat Evolved.
Because I was a fucking computer nerd when I was a kid. This is something that, like, was just like, we need to play this fucking game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mother was always very on, like, the precipice of being like, oh, I guess my kids aren't playing sports. I better buy them fucking consoles instead of knee pads. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, like, no matter what our fucking budget was, we always had fucking game consoles.
Yeah.
Because that was, like, my mom knew that we were
Priorities.
never leaving the house. You know what I mean? Like, which is always fucking cool to me as a kid. Like, this was just a game that was needed to be played. Like,
My story's
and
kind
we
of,
weren't very rich either. That was just like all of the like
No, it was just
entertainment
the-
budget went
yeah.
towards
Happiness
like
is important.
being gamers. gaming. Like my mother's very into gaming and always has been conscious of that. And like me and my brother's lives. Yeah.
Mine's kind of a cliche, but it was Funkoland. Because now it's when you go to a GameStop, most of them don't even have demo stations set up, but the ones that do, those are demos that are like the publisher developers like explicitly designed to be out there and that.
Yeah.
But back in those early days of Funkoland, they would just have games out in full on consoles.
You remember when Best Buy had like PCs set up to play games?
Yes,
do you remember that?
I do remember
we
that.
used to go there all the time. They had like a ring of PCs and we would play fucking Call of Duty and shit. Like the old
now
Call
I don't
of
even think
Duties.
you can have an M-rated demo set up in public, which is but like I remember back in the day in Funkoland just seeing like a station.
Liberals, am I right? Top Button Podcast, number one for conservatives. Subscribe, leave a review.
I explicitly, and I don't know why this memory is so vivid, but the first thing I think I ever did in Halo while trying to figure out, what the controls were, was throwing a grenade at a warthog and seeing it blow up and fly through the air. And I was like, I want this game.
Well, no, for me it was that weird strafing thing. Think about this. Like I was playing System Shock, and fucking Half-Life. Like these were games where it was very like an enemy would see you and run towards you.
Yeah.
Or an enemy would be behind something and shoot at you until you approached it. There was no movable AI. This was a game where that first fucking battle in the spaceship, when the first time you encounter an elite in that little fucking room, it's like a room with like chairs and a computer and shit.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant what the room is. What's more important is the fact that I vividly remember it coming through a door and then it's strafing around the fucking room.
Yeah.
That sounds dumb as fuck
No,
to
the way
say
they did
that
their
that's something
firefights were
crucial,
really,
but that means something. Like that guy was hard to kill, and it was cool that it was like it felt engaging,
Well, that's
and
the
like
funny
it felt
thing.
like whoa, I gotta fucking move and shoot this
My
fucking
story's
guy.
just
Like,
silly because I think that was the first game I ever played. That was a first-person game that seamlessly you could get in and out of a vehicle.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there
yeah.
has to be an example before that, but like you had the GTA style games and stuff like that and driver style games, but those weren't first person. Like that was the first time I played a dedicated shooter that had like just vehicles that you could jump in and out of, and that was the thing that got me. I played a lot of like racing games and shooters as a kid, so it was like
Yep.
are we gonna do an episode on Halo 2 or 3 or anything
can.
like that? Well, I'm saying because like obviously Halo 1 and 2
predated Battlefield
were
and stuff.
amazing. You know what I mean? 2000, I was very young.
I mean, 2.
So it was a game I approached as a kid.
Halo 2 very much tied into our Xbox Live and 360 episode.
Yeah, Halo 2, I was becoming a teenager, so it was kind of cool, but Halo 3 is kind of really like the game that meant the most to me. Because I was... 2007, so I was literally a teenager becoming an adult.
You know what I think was the thing that got me very much into the Halo was its sci-fi aesthetic. I mean, I was obviously like a Star Wars fan growing up as a kid, but my favorite shooter before, like, I played so much Red Faction.
Yeah.
And I loved Red Faction 1, and it was like that was an easy transition for me to kind of be like, oh shit, this is like that.
I mean, the thing I was gonna say is that like
that had vehicles.
Co-op in that game and split screen multiplayer were like, this is like the thing, because Xbox, I've talked to so many people now, because my story is like, I bought a GameCube when it came out, and all jokes aside, I like the GameCube, but I got in an argument with somebody at school, and they were like,
no, Super Mario N64 was good as shit. Yeah, I get it. GameCube was awesome.
That was on N64. It's called Super N64 in the title.
Yeah, cool. I get it. But explain it.
I got in an argument with somebody about which was better, the GameCube or the Xbox. So they invited me over to their house, and we played Pillar of Autumn, the first level of Halo co-op. And I was like, oh, I fucked up. And I like saved up a bunch of money and bought an Xbox, and the rest is fucking history.
Smash on one TV, Halo on the other. But I think that's it for our story.
That's it for our story.
Yeah. Just.
Well,
I'm sure every person.
I'm sure we could talk until the sun came up about our experiences.
Has been absolutely affected by this game more than they can ever imagine.
I will say the first time I saw, like, I was ever at a LAN party and I saw multiple consoles connected together and people playing split screen online was like, felt like magic to me.
That was
I
a fucking experience.
Yeah, I was like, how is that possible?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the memories, like the absolute, like I think what Halo really encompasses as an idea is that gaming is more important than just fucking entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a pivotal part of my life, and
it's a connection to people.
I tie it to memories that happen to be Halo memories.
Yeah.
Playing with multiple TVs in different rooms, like no running in here, screen
know.
peeking while we're fucking 4v4ing, like just so much cool shit is that are memories of gaming.
Yeah.
The actual memories are Halo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those games that has inspired a mechanical generation of fucking video games and just an absolute just. It's the same effect I'm sure Mario has on my brother
absolutely.
who's 10 years older than me.
I mean, that's the effect that Mario had on me, for sure.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like the same effect that Fortnite. I'm sorry, this sounds stupid. I'm mentioning this non-ironically, surprisingly, but the same effect that like Minecraft and
Fortnite is many people's
will
Halo,
have on kids who are fucking 12 and 13 now when they're fucking 20-something.
Me and Austin know many people in our lives who game as heavy as we do and those who don't. And Halo is an interesting thing because that game surpassed. Like, we know a lot of people who play Halo who are not even like super into games, but it just broke through that, I guess. It was just that fun and kind of crazy at the time. Like,
Austin's right. I'm sorry for starting up. We can talk about it for hours.
Yeah,
Let's
we can sit
talk
here
about
and
it
gush about
yourselves,
Halo
idiots.
forever. And I love Halo. I love it so much. It's one of the best. It's one of the best video games ever made of all time. End of story. Okay.
except for GoldenEye.
Close this.
Shut the fuck up!
All right, and this podcast is over. Any of the future episodes we talked about are not happening because Randy is an unagreeable idiot.
GoldenEye off the table.
We're doing an episode on GoldenEye.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna sit here and be like, but what about Halo the whole time?
You probably are. It's
I
okay.
Wouldn't it be great
I'm
if we
telling you
just
right
didn't
now, I
show
am.
up? Yeah, I gotta eat, dude. I'm hungry. I can't make it, dude.
All right, so you're listening to this already. If you want to hear more, you can find us on iTunes,
Your mistake.
Spotify, Google Play. Please subscribe. Rate us on iTunes. Algorithms are a bitch. Find us on YouTube. I don't know how because YouTube sucks. We mentioned that last episode, but please find us on YouTube and subscribe. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at HotButtonCast.
That's good.
Is that it?
I think you got it.
No,
all.
that's not it. We are, if you're, depending on what time you're listening to, we're doing a live show. It's going to be amazing.
I think the live show might be after.
Do you think it'll be after this
No, it will
release?
be.
Or before this episode comes out.
Yeah,
All right.
that's
Well,
what
thanks
I mean.
for coming to the live show. If you're listening to this.
Yeah, we're gonna record a separate thing for that. I think you were outside because I said the same thing, and then I realized I was like, "Oh, this is gonna."
yeah, we'll
Yeah,
throw
you're
a
all
little
the best.
tackle
It
on
was a huge smash, giant success.
Yeah, there were so many people we violated fire codes. It was nuts.
Yeah, special shout out to those couple hundred fans that gave us
And
money.
thank you to Barack Obama for coming.
showing up.
For real, good to hear. Thanks for
What a
coming, dude.
guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with that,
Oh,
yeah.
what do you think, Hot Button? Oh, they were really good. And,
Y'all ever play Halo?
What's the best Halo? What's the worst Halo?
All right, the worst Halo
Is
is
Reach.
5. I think 5 is.
I think Reach as well.
3 is the
one.
worst Halo.
Get
Maybe 5.
This is a
Five's the best.
This is a 2-person podcast now. Welcome to
5
me
is
and
the best
Randy and
Halo.
nobody
Yeah.
else.
Maybe you're right. Maybe 5 is at the bottom.
Oh,
then Reach.
now it's just me.
5 is the
Oh
best
wait, no.
Halo.
No, I said
thought
the
you it was
bottom.
gonna be the best.
No.
Halo 5, best story, best gameplay,
Halo Wars.
best company.
Jason, you're gonna have to fix these mics. I'm about to punch them on the front.
3 might be my favorite. I probably have the most memories to 1.
Is it? Can I make a guess? Is
Okay.
it because 3 has 4-player co-op?
Yes. That is how I played it.
You're so
I
predictable.
know. But I like 1 a whole lot. I like 2 also, but
I mean, 1 is my favorite story by far.
yeah, might be mine
but for
too.
multiplayer, 3.
3 is the one I played the most multiplayer
Yes, it's the best multiplayer.
of. Yeah, though I played a lot of 2 as well, and 4's not that bad.
4's all right.
4's good. It's not a
I
good
didn't-
Halo game, but it's a
I
good
didn't
game.
like 4 at the time. Reach was far worse. I didn't like 4 at the time.
Yeah.
But
I'm a def-
after playing 5 and then the Master Chief Collection, I
Yeah.
went back and played some of 4, and I was like, 4's all right.
Yeah,
4's
4's
pretty
alright.
good.
I'm a defender of ODST as well. I think that
ODST
I
is
think
fun.
that campaign's cool,
Yeah,
and it has Firefight, and Firefight's the shit.
Firefight is good. Firefight was the best part of Reach.
Yeah.
also has Firefight, right?
Did they bring it back? They may have.
I don't know.
Sure
I don't remember.
It might. I don't remember.
Well, that might be 5.
I didn't play a ton of 4. I just played through the campaign.
Yeah.
And then
We played a little bit of the multiplayer when it came out, but not a lot.
yeah. And then they tried to turn 5 into an esport, and that's how you ruin video games.
It is a good way.
4 SWAT is my shit.
SWAT's great.
SWAT is great. That started in 2, isn't it?
Yes.
I just like the SWAT in 4. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Just
4
the DMR.
was 4 got rid of dual wielding though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was on 2 and 3, and then it never came back. And 4 had like care packages, and you couldn't look down sights. Like that's 5.
5, you looked on sites.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Halo 1, just one gun in each hand. Halo 2, guess what?
3, you hold
You
one
can
with
have-
your foot.
Yeah.
I will never play another video game as long as I played Halo 3 for the rest of my life. Because I looked up
You
my
don't-
time playing Halo 3 multiplier.
Do you think
and it
it's
was like-
more than like Overwatch
look
and
up
Siege
your
and
time?
It was
stuff like that?
55 days.
How do you look up your time?
How do you look at your time on Xbox?
There's sites for it.
Yeah, dude.
You used to be able to do it on Bungie.net, and then Bungie.net got redone to be just about Destiny. They got rid of all the Halo stats.
Okay. I'm trying to think of.
There's an app for that on Xbox.
Yeah.
A Halo
I
app.
know that.
Mm-hmm.
Even playing Rock Band for 1,000 years.
They Destiny 1 I have played for over 50 days.
Did you guys?
60
Did you guys
days,
get
maybe.
like all 1,000 achievements in any of the
Yeah.
Halo games or anything?
Yeah,
Oh, in
except
Halo?
a couple of them
Yeah.
are in Japanese.
Wait, what?
So when Halo 3 came out, there were a lot of achievements that were like really hard to get
Oh,
organically.
yeah, I remember the skulls and stuff.
Not the skulls. It was like get a streak in multiplayer using like the sword. And it was like a
fuck
bunch of
multiplayer
hard
achievements.
stuff.
Yeah.
So they had servers, and the game would determine which server you played on based on where the location of your Xbox 360 was set. So if you set your Xbox 360 location to Japan, and since nobody in Japan played Halo, it was just all people achievement boosting. So that's how I got all those multiplayer
Oh,
achievements.
that's so great.
But I think if you look them up on my on an Xbox 360 and look at my achievements, they're in Japanese because when
That's
I got
pretty
them, they
good.
were.
I have some Japanese achievements because of Puyo Puyo Tetris, which is cool. Just
You watched the Donkey Tetris video?
yeah, it's so good. Tony Tetris,
Tony Tetris is so, what did he say? Like,
Hatris.
Yeah.
What was the one? It was just like
Tony
dot.
Tetris is like, it's time to get in the fucking business. Like, all red.
You know, you want to know something scary? I've played almost every game he talks about in there.
What
Like
a
it.
nightmare. Sphere Tetris.
Sphere.
See what Jason like.
Did you mess around in Forge mode much when that came out?
Yeah, we used to play this game mode called Dodgeball.
Dodgeball?
Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah, was it with like hammers?
No.
I remember that was a
That was
different one.
Griffball.
No, that's Griffball.
Okay, yeah, I
There was like
remember that too.
another. There's another other ball sport.
You create like a court, and you basically start everybody with no weapons or with a pistol because you can't start with no weapons. You start with
Right,
a pistol with no
yeah.
ammo in it, and then you line up a bunch of plasma grenades in the middle, and then everybody runs towards the middle and picks up plasma grenades,
That's pretty good.
and then throws them. And if you stick somebody,
We used to do this thing called bum fights. You'd go to Guardian, and it was a modified version of Guardian where you would only be in the circle thing in the center. You know how there's like that little
Yeah,
circle
yeah.
thing in the center? So you block off the whole map, so you have to stay in there. All the spawn points are in a ring, like a circle around that ring, like around the
Yeah,
ring.
yeah.
And then all it is magnums, SWAT, one-shot head kills.
That's just like a
it's
nightmare.
So it's like you just spawn and duck, and it's just like whoever's the quickest. You can literally get where it's like you play with like 5 or 6 people. You're just waiting for people to spawn. It's like it's just whoever's like the.
I like when
quickest.
people made like Warthog racetracks and stuff.
oh
That
yeah,
was
we
always
used to
fun.
do another.
Or
thing.
you play hammers in the middle of
We
the
used to
ring.
do another thing called jousting,
Yeah.
which was where you got on the mongoose, the ATV, and you could have somebody
Oh yeah, on the back with
on the back of it, and that you could use any gun in the game one-handed.
so good.
So you literally made like a row and surrounded it with like boxes so people couldn't get out, and then you just have one person jump on a mongoose, a second person with a sniper rifle jump on the back, and then you drive at each other and try to headshot each other off, no scope each other off the
Fuck.
back of the mongoose.
They don't make like shooters like that anymore in terms of like multiplayer. It's funny that like I was thinking about this the other day where it's like when you look at Halo 3's multiplayer, just like the blueprint, it's so fucking weird. Like the weapons are weird, the map layouts are weird. Like they weren't building it with a competitive nature in mind. People just
it was like the
took
funnest game ever made.
Yeah, like it's the weapon. Like when you think about things like the Spartan laser and the gravity hammer, like they're so stupid and fun. Like that would never be in a competitive shooter these days ever. Like no one's gonna put a weapon that strange and that dumb. Like it's like it felt like something left over from the days of Time Splitters or like Duke Nukem Online. Like nobody, like it's really silly.
Yeah, which is weird because Halo is the popular shooter in between the 3D games like Doom, I guess Quake, Counter-Strike, and then between Call of Duty.
Yeah, that is very true.
So it was like it had half of it was inspired by things like Doom and Quake and Counter-Strike, and then the other half of it inspired things like Call of Duty.
Totally.
So it's like a weird mix of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I miss it.